Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's public forum. I declare the public forum open at 6 p.m. I will start with the acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters, and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work, and meet on these lands. Notice of live streaming of the public forum. Staff and public are reminded that this public forum is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and also being broadcast live to the public on Council's website, in accordance with Section 5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. The recording will be made available on Council's website. Public participation on items on the agenda. There are 19 speakers registered for tonight's public forum. I will remind speakers that speakers have a 3-minute time limit. The first sound you hear indicates you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. Our first speaker tonight is Tika Lee, speaking in person on Mayoral Minute 00226, celebrating the 45th anniversary of the Chinese Australian Services Society, CAS. Ms. Lee, please come forward and just press the button on the right-hand side.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and members of committees. My name is Tika Lee, Vice Chair of CAS. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support Mayoral Minutes recognition the 45th anniversary of CAS. This recognition means a great deal to CAS and to many staff, volunteer and committee members who have part of this journey over the past 4.5 decades. CAS began 45 years ago as a small volunteer initiative created by migrants who want to help other migrants find their footing in Australia. What started with a handful of volunteers has grown into a major community organization supporting more than 8,500 families every week across Sydney, Wollongong, and now Victoria. Our services span many areas of daily life, including aged care, disability support, settlement services, childcare, employment training, and health and well-being program. Behind every program is a simple mission, helping people feel that they belong. The Georges River area has always been an important part of that story. We sincerely appreciate the support from Georges River Council through community grants and programs such as Golden 100, Multicultural Senior Connections, volunteers training, community education and settlement support have strengthened well-being, built social connection and helped many of residents access services they may otherwise struggle to reach. Importantly, these initiatives are powered not only by funding, but by people. Our dedicated staff, volunteer, and the many activity groups that bring residents together through learning, culture, friendship, and support. For me, personally, tonight, recognition is also deeply meaningful. My own family journey reflects the same migrant story that shaped CAS. My mother, Madam Lee, arrived in Hurstville 1990 as a new migrant, also facing language and cultural barriers. Earlier this year, she was honored by Georges River as the Volunteer of the Year, something our family is very proud of. The spirit of volunteer and community service is exactly what CAS are built on. So on behalf of CAS, I would like to sincerely thank Madam Mayor and Council to recognize this milestone and support the work we do in the community. 45 years ago, a small group of volunteers planted a seed of service. Today, that seed nurtures thousands of families, and together with this council and our community, we continue to grow for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Our next speaker is Lei Wang, speaking in person on CCL 01426, LTF 01326, the traffic and pedestrian safety issues, Hurstville. Just press the button on the right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Good evening to the mayor and all the councillors of Georges River Council. My name is Lei Wang, and I'm a local resident living adjacent to the concentrated cluster of construction sites around Forest Road and Hill Street. I'm here to express my full support for the current notice of motion, which comprehensively addresses the urgent issues of traffic safety, pedestrian hazards, construction compliance, and future strategy planning in our precinct. As a nearby resident, I have personally endured the severe impacts of this construction over the past years. And recently, the situation has become completely unacceptable. Just within the last weeks, the construction site operated entirely through the night. The resulting construction noise and intense after hours light pollution made it completely impossible for my family to sleep. This blatant disregard for the community and council's noise regulation, which clearly state that power tools and equipment must not be heard in a neighborhood's residence after 8 p.m. is destroying our quality of life. Furthermore, the lack of environmental compliance has brought significant dust pollution into my home. Even without formal air quality testing, the thick layer of dust visibly accumulating on my balcony and inside my apartment is clear evidence that proper staff containment and environmental controls are failing. Therefore, I strongly urge the council to pass this motion and take immediate escalated enforcement action to push the developers to implement strict rectification. Additionally, I formally request that the council send an official notification letter to all surrounding residents once these rectification measures are enforced, outlining exactly what corrective actions the construction party is being forced to do and bring these steps back into compliance. Our community cannot continue to absorb the negative impacts of this construction. Thank you for your time and for prioritizing the health, safety, and well-being of your residents. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Li Wang. I think I'm just going to seek clarification from the Executive Manager, Ms. McKinley. Could you just confirm that the item number for that one was actually NM 01326, just for the record?
It says CCL 01426, traffic and pedestrian safety issues, Hurstville.
That is not the item number that
LTF 01326 from the
that relates to
traffic
Regent
forum.
Street
Yeah.
in Colegrove. Anyway, we'll
You just check that.
So I'll call the next speaker, which is Mr. Sean Wood, and it's a written submission. It's on the item traffic and pedestrian safety issues, Hurstville, and we'll just correct the record in relation to the item number.
Yeah. My name is Sean Wood and I live right next to the construction sites at 1A Hill Street and Wright Street. I am speaking to you today to urge you to strongly support the notice of motion regarding the severe safety and environmental compliance issues in the Forest Road and Hill Street precinct. Recently, I had to urgently contact Councillor Ben Wang because the developers at 1A Hill Street completely failed to secure their materials. During the night and again the next day, construction debris was flying around dangerously in the wind right outside my balcony. Even worse, the site was being left wide open every day with an unsecured ditch, a massive occupational health and safety risk where a child could easily fall in and be seriously injured or killed. Additionally, the traffic management and pedestrian crossing signs on Forest Road are practically useless. Drivers cannot see the warning signs until they have already turned into the street, creating a highly dangerous blind spot for pedestrians trying to cross. While I am grateful that Councillor Wang intervened and these specific incidents were fixed, the reality is that these dangerous situations should never have happened in the first place. As this motion correctly identifies, standard reactive operational enforcement has proven entirely insufficient. Residents should not have to act as unpaid site inspectors, constantly policing developers to ensure they follow basic safety and environmental controls. We need the proactive, escalated enforcement strategy outlined in this motion so that site security and construction traffic management plans are strictly monitored by the council before a hazard occurs, not just fixed after an exhausted resident raises the alarm. Furthermore, piecemeal reactive fixes are not enough because this is not an isolated construction site. We are facing a massive cumulative impact from a highly concentrated cluster of developments between the proposed 187 units at 1A Hill Street, the 219 units at Metro Centre, the 254 units at the Mesa development, and the 109 units at the Horizon building. Our immediate area is absorbing over 830 new apartments. This will bring an estimated 2,000 or more new residents funneling into already congested local roads, particularly the single lane bottleneck at Hill Street and the Avenue underpass. Managing this radical transformation is not an easy task, which is exactly why we need the long-term strategic plan requested in this motion. We urgently need the council to commission the succession strategic traffic study and implement permanent safety infrastructure like raised pedestrian crossings before this massive influx of residents causes complete gridlock and further jeopardises public safety. I urge you to support this motion, stop relying on residents to report every detail and implement a holistic, proactive safety plan for our community.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Marina Lehman, speaking in person on the same item, traffic and pedestrian safety issues, Hurstville.
To the Mayor and Councillors of Georges River Council, my name is Marina Lehman and I'm a resident living in the East Quarter complex in the middle of great construction sites. I'm speaking to you today to urge to strongly support the notion of motion regarding the severe and ongoing compliance issues stemming from the concentrated cluster of construction sites around Forest Road, Hill Street and Wright Street. Current enforcement of the construction traffic management plans and environmental controls aren't sufficient enough, and we are experiencing the results of issues. Over the last few weeks, the construction site relating to the site on the corner of Forest Road and Wright Street have been entirely disrupted. Workers have been setting up between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. and cutting deep into the concrete until 10-11 p.m. at night. From a higher level location, the noise from the concrete cutting is very noticeable and we are forced to close our sliding doors for some peace. I can only imagine the unbearable noise for my neighbours on the lower levels, many of which are families with children and babies, school children who are sleeping. The EPA standards are for construction work on weekdays 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. and blasting is shorter from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Residential use of power tools is limited to 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Yet this developer is operating heavy machinery late into the night, up to 11 p.m. This highlights the need for a stronger enforcement approach. After-hours breaches should not be regarded as routine operational matters affect the quality of residents' life. Beyond the noise, my neighbours and I are deeply concerned with the traffic congestion and pedestrian safety hazards around the area. With so many high-density developments funneling thousands of vehicles into the overwhelmed Hill Street, Forest Road and the Avenue underpass, it's a disaster waiting to happen. The footpaths are cracking and deteriorating and the crossings feel dangerous. The cumulative impact of these neighbourhoods is having a growing impact on the livelihood of our neighbourhood. Temporary rubber safety islands are not enough. We need permanent and coloured pedestrian crossings requested in the motion. A keep clear sign on Forest Road before turning into Hill Street could be helpful. A holistic succession strategic traffic study is needed for proactively planning and managing the anticipated growth in the residential population, particularly as the underpass will serve as a key entry and exit point for approximately 10 high-rise buildings, a large supermarket, boutique shops within the East Quarter area. I urge you to listen to the residents who are bearing the brunt of this overdevelopment and vote in favour of the motion to implement a holistic, proactive and strictly enforced safety plan for the Hurstville School, retail and residential precinct. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lehman. Our next speaker is Jackie Teo, and it is a written submission on CCL 01426, LTF 01726, Ecole Street and Ecole Lane, Carlton, proposed changes to traffic and parking conditions.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Teo, and I am the president of the Carlton South Public School PNC. I'm speaking tonight in support of the recommendations as stated in agenda item LTF 01726. Since the beginning of this school term, the implementation of the new traffic flow arrangements and kiss and ride signage around the school has been very positively received by the parents in the broader Carlton South Public School community. These changes have made noticeable difference in how traffic moves around the school, particularly during the busy morning drop-off and afternoon pickup periods. Like any new system, there are a few initial teething issues, particularly with some parents becoming familiar with the new no left turn arrangements into Ecole Street and Ecole Lane. However, with the support and guidance of council staff, along with the cooperation of the school and parent community, these adjustments were quickly understood and adopted. The outcome has been a much safer and more orderly environment for our students, which is something our whole community values highly. On behalf of the Carlton South Public School community, I would like to sincerely thank Mayor Elise Borg, Councillor Thomas Gow and the many staff at Georges River Council for their leadership, responsiveness and commitment to improving safety around our school. We strongly support these measures and hope that these successful changes can now be made permanent. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kerry Wright, also a written submission on the same item, CCL 01426, LTF 01726, Ecole Street and Ecole Lane, Carlton, proposed changes to traffic and parking conditions.
On behalf of the residents of Ecole Street, below are my thoughts as witnessed daily in our streets since the introduction of the trial new signs about 6 weeks ago. Many residents have expressed the same issues and complained to me weekly on the below impacts. Positives: no left turn, traffic signage at each end of the street appears to have addressed both the two-way traffic congestion and child safety concerns as previously raised, especially in the narrow Ecole Lane. Kiss and ride signage was also successful, but only when adhered to. Negatives: mornings, Ecole Street, congested traffic built up into the Princess Highway, but only for 5 to 10 minutes, around 8:50 a.m. till 9 a.m. This is the time when most parents were dropping off their children. The remainder of time, traffic flowed relatively freely. Parents did appear to be staggering their drop-off time to avoid this issue. Surprisingly, some impatient, selfish people were still doing U-turns and going back up the street and disobeying the no left turn into the lane. This is becoming more frequent, which is disappointing. Parents in a hurry around school time is very dangerous. Afternoons, the kiss and ride area, when it was initially patrolled by council rangers, worked fantastic. Traffic flowed, there was no double parking, no parking in no stopping and bus zones. However, gradually with the absence of these rangers, parents have reverted back to arriving early, parking for way more than the 2-minute allowable time and taking up all the parking spaces. Some still arriving as early as 2:30 p.m. This behaviour has been the long-standing issue in the street, and with new signage now being ignored, all the spots taken again, parents arriving later now have nowhere to stop. Double parking, illegal parking has returned, however, not as frequent. Impact on residents. With the introduction of kiss and ride signage extending all the way to the western end of Ecole, there is now no street parking available to us residents during the hours 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and then 2:30 to 4 p.m. In the afternoons by 3:15, all traffic is gone and the street is deserted till 4 p.m. when the residents are allowed to park. Many arrive home from work prior to this time and have to park in the neighbouring streets. Suggested outcomes. Keep the no left turn signage, it is effective. Return just 3 unlimited parking spaces to the western end of the street. Trial traffic cameras in the street along with signage stating traffic surveillance cameras are now in this area. This should stop most, if not all, of the rule-breaking individuals. Shorten the time period for kiss and ride to finish at 3:15 p.m. This is considered a unique change, but an important one for us residents, as it will address our problems which these new rules have brought upon us. We have attached photos to support what we have witnessed. These show traffic and parking conditions, busy and not busy. Most are self-explanatory. we weren't allowed to show the photos because they had identifiable images on them. We are supportive of Council's efforts to bring child safety and traffic fluency to our street, but request consideration to the impact these changes have on the residents as well. Thank you for your understanding on this matter.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kiralee Tapp, speaking in person on CCL 01426, LTF 02026, Sans Souci Leisure Centre, Sans Souci changes to parking restrictions. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name is Kiralee Tapp. I'm a Georges River resident, a parent of 2 children who swim at Sans Souci Leisure Centre, and both of my children have a disability, as also I live with a disability myself. Our disabilities are invisible, which means you may not see them, but they are real and they affect how we safely access this facility. I hold a disability parking permit, and so does my 14-year-old son. I want to start by acknowledging the council has taken positive steps. The formalised mobility parking spaces, the additional accessible parking and the extra no parking signages are all welcome changes. They show that council is trying to improve safety and access, and that should be recognised. But the reality is the area is still unsafe. The biggest problem is that people are still ignoring the rules. Parents and other pool users continue to park opposite the accessible spaces in no parking areas and in places marked for authorised vehicles only, especially in the afternoon when the pool is busy. That creates a safety risk for everyone. It is unsafe for pedestrians walking to and from the pool, and it is unsafe for disabled drivers who are lawfully trying to access the mobility spaces. Those spaces cannot work properly if other cars are blocking the area and making it hard or impossible to safely manoeuvre in and out. So while the spaces are there, they are not always truly accessible in practice. The second issue is the driveway itself. The sandstone blocks along the driveway may look tidy, but they created another hazard. They have reduced the safe space for pedestrians to step aside when cars are coming. In some parts of the driveway, there is simply nowhere safe to move. That is dangerous for parents with prams, young children, older people, and anyone with mobility issues. And it's especially dangerous at 4:55 in the morning when senior swimmers are dropped at the gate and walk down the driveway in the dark while cars are coming down. At that time of day, it is pitch black. People cannot clearly see the sandstone blocks on one side of the rocks and the other. And there is nowhere safe to step if a vehicle approaches. That is not a minor issue. It is a real safety risk. So tonight, my message is simple. Thank you, Council, for making these changes. But please recognise that the work is not finished because people are still being put at risk. And to pool users, I make this plea. Please respect the rules. Respect the no parking signs. Respect the authorised vehicles only signs. Respect the mobility spaces. And please remember this, not all disabilities are visible. These spaces are not a convenience. For some of us, they are a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tapp. Our next speaker is Adrian Polhill, speaking in person on CCL 01626, EMV 00926, Georges River tree canopy targets for Georges River LGA by 2038, progress update 2026.
More than one. Yeah, more than one.
Oh, just press the right hand button there.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks very much again for the opportunity to speak to you about trees and tree planting. It's been 5 years since I've been involved with tree planting exercises, both here in the Georges River area and indeed in other parts of New South Wales. I've worked with council, I've spoken to council officers many times about the importance of tree planting and planning for the future so that we can all look forward to a 40% tree canopy cover by the year 2036. But in the Georges River Council documents, it actually says 2038. The reason I'm here tonight is to say that I have looked at the ENV report 009 2026. There is an incredible amount of detail in there. And thank you very much, Joe, and to Bryce and your teams for putting that together. There are some gaps, I thought, and I'll just mention a couple of those. And that is, there's no mention of actually how many thousands of trees we need to put in the ground to start to increase the canopy cover. Even though I had a meeting with Andrew Spooner and the previous Director of Planning, Joe, in 2023, and we talked about specifically this issue. So I was a little bit disappointed that there was no follow-up to that. The other thing that doesn't talk about it really in detail is we are spending would you believe, $1,000 per tree to put trees in the ground. And I think the council has spent about $150,000 to put 150 trees in the ground. There's no mention of actually how successful, what's the survival rate of those trees. Conversely, I can tell you that there's been some wonderful pocket forest planting in the last few years, and many of the councillors have actually joined us for that plantings. A good example here is Beale Reserve, where over 2,000 trees have been planted, this size tree, and the survival rate there is incredible. It's well over 90%. So I urge the council, as they look at the tree strategy and put together the plans, look very carefully at how you're going to spend those thousands and thousands of dollars of our taxpayer, your taxpayer dollars, because there are better ways. The evidence is here in Carlton Crescent, in Cars Park, in Clayton Reserve, in Beale Reserve, and many other. We have had some very successful tree plantings, and they have required very little, if any, maintenance. So I urge you to look very carefully at that. I also will ask for a meeting very soon to approach Elise for a meeting between Oatley Flora and Fauna Conservation Society and the council officers, and let's discuss how we can move forward and we act much quicker than we've been acting before. Thank you very much for your time. These are a donation to the council from Oatley Flora and Fauna Conservation Society, as well as the Menai Wildflower Group, where we're growing tens of thousands of trees just for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Colville.
Thanks. I'll just leave it for much. Yeah.
Our next speaker is Heather Whitson in person, speaking on CCL 01626 EMV 00926, the Georges River Tree Canopy Targets, the Georges River LGA by 2038 Progress Update 2026.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, councillors, good evening. I speak today as a resident of the particularly tree-rich and beautiful suburb of Oatley, who fully supports Council's goal of a 40% tree canopy by 2038. It is vital for our future. However, there's a fundamental paradox at the heart of our planning. While the Council is rightfully investing $120,000 to increase our canopy, the state government's low and mid-rise and transport-oriented development housing policies are effectively acting as a canopy bulldozer. The data is clear. Our canopy has already dropped from 22% in 2019 to 20% in 2022. We are moving in the wrong direction. Council has identified that the largest opportunity for canopy growth is on private land. Yet LMR and Todd development mandates floor space ratios, which almost universally requires full site excavation for basement parking. When you excavate a site for a basement, you don't just lose a tree, you lose the future of that site. You destroy the deep soil zone, and once that soil is gone, it's physically impossible to ever host a large canopy-forming eucalypt again. By allowing this state-mandated rezoning to proceed in Oatley, we are allowing, firstly, the creation of an urban heat island. We're trading our natural cooling system for concrete and glass, exposing the most vulnerable residents to dangerous heat spikes, and increasing energy demand to cool homes and businesses. And secondly, we're allowing a collapse of biodiversity. Oatley's backyards are not just private property, they're critical foraging and nesting corridors for the powerful owl and the grey-headed flying fox. These species are already in free fall across New South Wales, and removing their habitat in our suburbs is a direct contribution to the extinction crisis. So, Madam Mayor and councillors, we can't plant our way out of this if we are simultaneously legislating the removal of our existing trees and their primary growing grounds. Investing in tree planting while authorising these rezoning laws is a contradictory strategy and potentially a waste of public funds. The state government's LMR policy for Oatley and the LGA in general is entirely incompatible with our 40% tree canopy goal. So I urge council to do two things. Number one, be loud. Continue your strong advocacy against these rezoning laws, highlighting the specific conflict with your canopy mandate. And number two, be bold. Formally commission an independent canopy impact audit of these policies. We need the data to show the Minister of Planning exactly how many hectares of deep soil will be lost to basement excavations in Oatley and more broadly across our LGA. If we want a green Oatley and LGA in 2038, we have to protect the ground that we stand on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitson. Our next speaker is Sonia Paxson, providing a written submission on CCL 01626 EMV 00926 Georges River Tree Canopy Targets.
I'm speaking today in favour of ENV 00926 and that the council allocates at least $120,000 in the budget for tree planting. It is disappointing that Georges River Tree Canopy is declining and moving further away from the 40% target. Last year, when the council allocated $150,000 with a cost per tree of $1,000, this resulted in only 150 new street trees. It would be great if council could liaise with residents to give some ownership of their new street trees and encourage the resident to water and establish the tree. Given there is probably limited opportunity to increase canopy cover in existing parks, street trees should play a greater role in increasing the canopy. Waverley Council is currently putting up signs asking residents to request a street tree in front of their house if there isn't one, pointing out the benefits of greener, shadier, cooler street and an increase in property prices. Perhaps council could consider a similar scheme or take a leaf from Sutherland Shire Council where 2 street trees are being planted in front of each house. Thank you for raising this motion, and I strongly encourage it to be accepted and to try and preserve our existing trees as well as planting new ones.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Eva Luo. It's a written submission as well on NM 00826, development of an artificial intelligence governance framework for Georges River Council.
My name is Eva Luo, and I am a local resident and a professional who has been closely following the development of digital technologies and their impact on public administration and community services. I would like to express my strong support for motion NM 00826, introduced by Councillor Liu, regarding the development of an artificial intelligence AI governance framework for Georges River Council. Artificial intelligence is rapidly reshaping how governments operate across the world. National governments, state governments, and many local councils are beginning to explore how AI can improve public administration, enhance service delivery, and support more informed decision-making. For local governments, AI should not be viewed simply as a technological trend, but as a practical tool that can strengthen governance capacity and improve the efficiency and responsiveness of council services. For councils such as Georges River, there are several areas where AI could potentially deliver meaningful benefits. 1, administrative efficiency and service delivery. Local councils manage a wide range of administrative processes, including development applications, regulatory compliance, customer service requests, and internal documentation. AI-assisted tools can help analyse large volumes of information, automate routine administrative tasks, and support council staff in processing inquiries more efficiently. This can significantly improve response times while reducing administrative workload, allowing staff to focus more on community-facing services. 2, urban planning and infrastructure management. Local governments are responsible for planning and maintaining essential infrastructure, including roads, waste management systems, public facilities, and environmental resources. AI technologies can assist in analysing data-related traffic flows, infrastructure maintenance needs, environmental monitoring, and development trends. By providing predictive insights and data-driven analysis, AI can support more strategic planning and more efficient allocation of council resources. 3, community engagement and digital accessibility. As communities become increasingly diverse and digitally connected, councils are expected to provide more responsive and accessible services. AI-powered digital platforms could support faster responses to community inquiries, improve online service systems, and enable multilingual communication tools. In a multicultural community such as Georges River, these capabilities could significantly improve accessibility for residents from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds. 4, data-informed decision-making. Councils collect and manage large amounts of operational and community data. AI tools can assist in analysing this information to identify trends, evaluate service outcomes, and support evidence-based decision-making. This can help councils better understand community needs and allocate resources more effectively. The importance of governance. While AI presents many opportunities, it also raises important governance considerations, particularly in areas such as data privacy, transparency, accountability, and ethical use. For this reason, the development of clear AI governance framework is both timely and essential.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joel Mackay in person on NM 00926, minimising gambling harm within the Georges River LGA, call to action by the New South Wales and Commonwealth governments.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. My name is Joel Mackay. We're here as the General Manager of Advocacy at Wesley Mission. I'm speaking today in support of this motion because gambling harm is not a theoretical policy debate here in Georges River. It's something that families here are living with every day. It shows up quietly in household stress, relationship breakdown, mental health strain, and financial pressure that too often spills over into crisis. Wesley Mission has worked alongside this community for decades, providing gambling counselling, financial support, and advocacy informed by lived experience. What we see consistently is that gambling harm rarely exists on its own. It intersects with mental health distress, trauma, domestic and family violence, and social isolation. And especially for people already doing it tough and those people facing vulnerabilities. And the local data makes this real. In just one quarter, so the last quarter reported on by the government in 2025, shows that poker machine losses exceeded $80 million just in that one quarter, just in Georges River. There are more than 2,000 poker machines operating locally, and nearly 1/3 of the clubs and hotels here are among the top 100 venues in New South Wales for poker machine profits. And these aren't abstract figures. They represent money not spent on rent, food, education, and recovery. This is why the Murphy report, which the motion advocates for, is so important. That inquiry was thorough, evidence-based, and bipartisan. It made 31 clear recommendations to reduce gambling harm, including stronger advertising restrictions, better consumer protections. Yet almost 3 years on, those recommendations remain largely unimplemented. And while the report is federally focused, the relevance here is immediate and local. Many of the strongest drivers of gambling harm, online gambling regulation, national advertising rules, and consumer protections, sit squarely at the federal level. Councils cannot control those levers, but their consequences land directly, particularly in places like Georges River, where we are seeing that harm come to the fore more significantly. I'd like to thank Georges River Council for the leadership you've shown before on this issue through the Community Safety Education Program, partnering with Gamble Aware New South Wales, and joining our campaign, the Put Pokies in Their Place campaign. That campaign's reforms, including cashless gambling, powering down machines after midnight, and greater transparency, are practical, proportionate measures that make a real difference. Like I said, local government cannot solve gambling harm alone, but it can speak with moral authority about what it sees on the ground. And it can call on state and Commonwealth governments to act on evidence they already have. So thank you very much for Councillor Marnie for putting forward this motion, and like to say that Wesley Mission fully support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. Our next speaker is Reverend David Young, in person on NM 00926, minimising gambling harm within the Georges River Council LGA, call to action by the New South Wales and Commonwealth governments. I'm not sure he's here. Okay, we will move to the next speaker. Sophia Plathy provided a written submission on NM 01026, Sustainable Procurement Policy Update. And Ms. Plathy has declared a pecuniary interest for the reason that she knows people who may apply for a tender in the future. Thank you, Ms. McKinley.
Georges River Council's Community Strategic Plan 25 to 35 recognises and supports the community's priority to have an impact and voice in governance. When assessing tender applications for service provision, it is fundamentally important to value and give strong weighting to community voice and feedback on services and tender applicants. Community members experience a sense of belonging through services running sports, arts, environmental learning and other community activities. Social inclusion benefits our well-being. Unfortunately, the social benefit to community and community feedback on services have not been included as a formal part of the Council's evaluation process of tender applications. I think this needs to change. The New South Wales Government provides clear guidelines around tender processes, including an emphasis on supporting local small businesses and socially beneficial organisations. Georges River Council needs to look to best practice models and ensure that the social and community building elements of services are emphasised, prioritised and integrated into tender assessment and procurement processes. In tender assessments, Council should prioritise community-based stakeholder feedback when evaluating service providers. The positive and inclusive impact of a service on the local community needs to be recognised. Where there are high rates of participation, strong satisfaction with service providers and a genuine sense of community, these services represent social capital investments of significant value. These services form part of the social cohesion fabric that communities need today. While social capital is difficult to measure financially, we know it is extremely valuable for people to feel they belong to a place and to community groups. This sense of belonging supports mental well-being, strengthens relationships and encourages people to become active citizens within their neighbourhoods. I recommend giving the social value and community stakeholder feedback a higher priority weighting in tender assessments and procurement frameworks. I also think Council needs to assign stronger weighting to small local businesses. The effort invested by service providers in building social cohesion may be difficult to measure financially, but its value to our community is far greater than the simple financial return a service provides to Council.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tony Bedore, providing a written submission on NM 01026, Sustainable Procurement Policy Update.
Business Chamber South writes in support of the notice of motion NM 01026 regarding the review and potential update of Council's sustainable procurement policy, particularly the proposed enhancement of weighting for social and local impact within the tender evaluation process. Supporting the local business community is critical to the ongoing economic strength, resilience and sustainability of the Georges River local government area. Local businesses are not only employers and service providers, they are also long-term contributors and the social fabric of our community, reinvesting locally and supporting community organisations, events and initiatives. Procurement decisions that recognise these broader benefits can have a significant multiplier effect across the local economy. Business Chamber South has consistently advocated for stronger local procurement outcomes and has made submissions to Council in previous years, highlighting the importance of a clear and practical local procurement policy. These submissions have emphasised that enabling local businesses to compete fairly for Council contracts strengthens the local economy, builds local capability and ensures that public expenditure delivers the greatest possible benefit to the community is intended to serve. We particularly welcome the intent of this motion to explore mechanisms that better recognise community benefit and local economic impact in procurement decisions and support small and medium-sized businesses within the Georges River LGA to participate in Council tender opportunities. Local businesses often face barriers in engaging with government procurement processes, including administrative complexity, scale requirements and limited awareness of upcoming opportunities. Measures that improve accessibility, Transparency and support for local tenderers can significantly increase participation and foster stronger partnerships between council and the local business community. Business Chamber South believes that a procurement framework that appropriately values local economic participation will deliver broader community outcomes while remaining consistent with principles of fairness, transparency and value for money. We look forward to continuing to work constructively with Council as the Sustainable Procurement Policy Review progresses in 2026 and would welcome the opportunity to contribute further from the perspective of the local business community. Thank you for considering our support for this important initiative. Tony Badua.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maria Yip, speaking in person on NM 01426, official opening, Museum of Chinese in Australia.
Good evening, councillors and Mayor of GRC. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity for me to present my support for Councillor Nancy Liu's notice of motion. I would like to express the prospects of the motion for Council to collaborate with the newly opened Museum of Chinese Australia, or MOCA for short, that is situated in Haymarket, Sydney. The opening is a huge milestone for migrants, and in my opinion, it represents how we have assimilated into the Australian community. It will be a great honour for Georges River to officially congratulate them on this historic and memorable moment. First of all, I would like to tell you a bit about myself. I'm Maria Yip, and I've been a Georges River resident for over 20 years. I have brought up my 3 children in this area, and we as a family have grown up and witnessed the community develop into the thriving multicultural hub as we have today. Also, I have also recently joined the Georges River Multicultural Advisory as well as its Disability Inclusion Committee as a panel member. I would hereby like to thank the Georges River Council, and in particular Amy Johnston and Sarah Lamont, for this brilliant opportunity to contribute. We in Georges River have many good initiatives to collaborate and work together with MOCA. The Lord Mayor of Sydney, Clover Moore, declared that MOCA is the new cultural asset. It will become an important cultural icon representing our wonderful heritage. Being one of the most culturally diverse LGAs in Sydney, Georges River continues to grow, and Hurstville is becoming one of the leading ethno hubs in our city. We have many historical initiatives from within our own community to contribute to the museum. It didn't seem that long ago, but back in October of 2020, Councillor Liu proposed a motion to work with and provide curatorial support to MOCA. We should now extend that venture. I myself had the amazing opportunity in 2022 to participate in the Council's Our Journeys, Our Stories exhibition. As a first-generation migrant, it was rewarding sharing my late father's legacy. I happen to have a vast collection of glittery Cantonese opera costumes and artefacts preserved from the late 1970s. My father used to perform back then in Haymarket, Sydney, and he held many values of being a Chinese migrant in Australia. I would like to extend the experience I have at the Hurstville Museum to showcase my collection at MOCA for the benefit of the greater community. There are also many more migrants in our local area who can also share their stories for our current and future generations. I would like to congratulate Councillor Liu for proposing the current motion. By supporting a cultural relationship with MOCA, we are in turn supporting the Council's strategic plan and recognising the success of our local Georges River community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Yip. Our next speaker is Brian Chen, and it's a written submission on NM 01426, official opening of Museum of Chinese in Australia.
It is a great honour to address the Council today on behalf of the Asia Pacific Council for International Intangible Cultural Heritage, APSIC. I would like to express our strong support for motion NM 01426 introduced by Councillor Nancy Liu, and to extend our sincere congratulations to the Museum of Chinese Australia, MOCA, on its official opening on 1 March 2026. The establishment of this museum represents a significant cultural milestone, not only for the Chinese Australian community, but also for the broader narrative of multicultural Australia. It provides an important institutional platform to recognise and document the historical contributions, cultural heritage, and lived experiences of Chinese Australians across generations. Many members of the Chinese Australian community have long-standing roots within the Georges River region, and their contributions to the social, cultural and economic development of this area are both significant and enduring. The creation of this museum reflects the deep historical connection between the community and this region. Museums such as MOCA play a vital public role. They preserve collective memory, document history with integrity, and create spaces where communities can share stories, traditions, and identity. In doing so, they contribute to strengthening cultural understanding, mutual respect, and social cohesion within a diverse and inclusive society. We also commend the Council's earlier resolution of 26 October 2020, supporting the establishment of this museum. Such forward-looking leadership demonstrates the constructive role that local governments can play in fostering cultural heritage protection and encouraging meaningful community engagement. APSIC stands ready to support dialogue and cooperation that promote the safeguarding and sharing of cultural heritage, particularly intangible cultural heritage traditions that connect people across cultures and generations. As an internationally recognised cultural heritage organisation dedicated to the protection and promotion of intangible cultural heritage, APSIC has established Asia-Pacific Intangible Cultural Heritage International Communication Centres in several countries and regions where Chinese cultural traditions are widely preserved and celebrated, including Singapore and Malaysia. Through these international networks, APSIC has been actively promoting cross-border cultural dialogue, heritage education, and international cultural exchange within the Asia-Pacific region. We sincerely look forward to developing future cooperation with Georges River Council and the Museum of Chinese in Australia. Through collaborative initiatives such as international exhibitions, cultural exchange programs, heritage education projects, and global cultural promotion platforms, the important heritage represented by this museum can be shared with wider audiences around the world, particularly in countries such as Singapore and Malaysia. In particular, such cooperation can help promote the stories, traditions, and cultural heritage of Chinese Australians to regions where Chinese cultural traditions form an important part of the social and cultural landscape, further strengthening cultural connections between Australia and the wider Asia-Pacific region.
Thank you. And our next speaker is again a written submission from Ginger Lee, NM01426, official opening at Museum of Chinese in Australia.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of Councillor Nancy Liu's motion NM01426 regarding the official opening of the Museum of Chinese Australia. I am Ginger Lee, the current president of the Australian Chinese Cultural Heritage Paper Art Club, which is a grassroots artist group in St George area. In March 2023, our organisation delivered the community art project 101 Smiling Faces, Portraits of Our Families and Friends. With support from New South Wales Multiculturalism, the project brought together artists, families and community members through a major portrait exhibition and a series of cultural activities. Importantly, the Museum of Chinese Australia, MOCA, played a vital role by making its ground floor gallery space available even before its official public opening. This support enabled the project to take place and allowed the community to share its stories through art. Guided by the theme Stronger Together, the exhibition celebrated everyday people, their families, friendships and intergenerational connections within Australia's multicultural society. The response was extraordinary. Within just 1 month, 182 artworks were submitted, with participants ranging in age from 6 to over 80. It became one of the largest community portrait exhibitions within the Chinese Australian community, demonstrating genuine cross-generational engagement. One particular moving element was the tribute wall to Dr. John Yu, who was the CEO of MOCA at that time. In less than 2 weeks, 27 portrait works were created in his honour. Many were produced by established artists, and in a remarkable gesture, all artists chose to donate their works to MOCA, ensuring that this tribute becomes part of our shared cultural history. Alongside the exhibition, the organising team hosted 9 workshops and cultural events over 15 consecutive days, attracting more than 600 participants, while related online content reached over 50,000 views. These numbers reflect something deeper than participation. They represent the power of culture to connect people and strengthen community during challenging times. Throughout this process, MOCA demonstrated the importance of a cultural institution that preserves history while also creating space for dialogue, creativity and belonging. Museums are not only about the past, they help community understand who we are and where we are going. As we celebrate MOCA's official opening, we look forward to its continued role as a place that preserves heritage, encourages cultural exchange and enriches the broader Australian story. When culture is preserved and communities are connected, everyone benefits. That is why the opening of MOCA matters, not just for one community, but for our shared Australian story.
Thank you. And our last speaker tonight is Linda Simon, speaking in person on NM 01526 Glen Lee, 80 Baroni Parade, Lugano, Heritage Protection.
Thank you, Elise. Good evening, Council. I'm Linda Simon, Secretary of Friends of Glen Lee and President of the Lugano Progress Association. I have pleasure in supporting Councillor Mahoney's motion here tonight on Glen Lee and thank him for the support he has provided over the years. I also thank you as councillors for your continued support in endorsing these resolutions. The only thing better would be if I did not have to be here, because Glen Lee had already been purchased by government and was already in public hands. However, a lot has happened since the end of 2025. The owners of the property, developers Romanos Construction, have employed a PR firm, Hill PDA, to promote the proposed plans for the development of Glen Lee. They reached out to the Lugano Progress Association and have conducted 2 briefing sessions with the executives of both community associations. We've been quite clear that these do not constitute consultation, as we have just been there to listen and ask questions. There's a set of draft plans for the site. While these plans are better than the original plan for 31 houses, we still do not see how they can build a number of large houses on the property without removing most of the 100-year-old trees and the understory of native bushes and grasses that protect local wildlife. There also remain considerable issues around stormwater, which flows out to Heinrich Reserve, and how the 3-year build, 3 years they say it will take, will not impact seriously on the river around Glen Lee. The proposed road into the site is from Baronia Parade, and residents are concerned about the impact of construction vehicles and other traffic in their neighbourhood. We don't see how the visual impact of Glen Lee will not be destroyed, nor the Aboriginal sections of the site protected. We strongly believe that once the initial build takes place, it will just be a matter of time before the rest of the trees are removed and the culture and the heritage that is Glen Lee destroyed. The Friends of Glen Lee fight on, and on the weekend held a community meeting supported by the Lugano Progress Association. Members are making submissions to the consultants, and the association is seeking advice on how we ensure the local heritage order is adhered to and the site protected. We need Council's continued support in recognising the significance of Glen Lee and this LGA for its settler history, Aboriginal culture and ecology. We're advocating on the need for a tree wildlife corridor on the site, guaranteed protection of the trees, assurance that there is no building on the foreshore exclusion zone, protection of the river and not opening Bayside Drive up to development as well. But what guarantees and protections will there be around future development? How does the local heritage order protect in terms of Glen Lee and its settings? We need council to continue working to have a state heritage order placed on the site, especially as we understand the DA is imminent, and to seek funding commitments from state and federal governments for the public acquisition of Glen Lee. We ask for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. And that is our final speaker for tonight. So I will declare this public forum closed at 6:58 p.m. Thank you to the members of the public for your attendance and participation in tonight's public forum. Decisions were made at next Monday's council meeting on all the topics that you've discussed tonight. So you can come in person or you can tune in online on the webcast.